Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher and the founder of Impeak. My guest on today's podcast is Helle, the co-founder of Llamaverse. They're an NFT project that's captured a lot of attention since its inception last year. And they've actually gone on to build so many different tools for the Web3 community. They're a really smart team and have the vision and the knowledge to keep building and delivering for many years to come. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I will personally keep an eye on their development over the coming months. When we spoke earlier in the week, I started to get into a little bit understanding of what you guys are doing. And it was so interesting that we ended up speaking for the whole hour without recording, just as I was trying to understand better. It seems like you've got so many moving parts in the ecosystem that you're building. So maybe you could start with explaining a little bit about, about yourself, who you are, and about the Llamaverse ecosystem. And explain, is everything that you're building under the umbrella of Llamaverse, or is there something bigger behind it? Because I know that you mentioned you've got 30 people working full-time, and then around 70 or so, was it, or maybe more, that are working freelance and things like that. So can you explain a little bit about how it all started? What is the ecosystem that you're working on? And we just get into that.
So yeah, no, it's actually the umbrella is called LlamaLabs, and then Llamaverse is just I call it the flagship, so to say. It's like the main, the heart of the project, everything like that. And yeah, how did we start? We started off as a free community, completely free Discord, October, September last year. Which it never meant to, it was never meant to be what it is now. It was more so just Llama, just sharing tips and trading with people that weren't sure or weren't confident themselves. But then after a bit of time, we just realized, hey, we should grow this bigger. So we started a collection. It was called Llama Boost. No, so it was called Llama Pass at the time. It was an ERC 1155. So it was just basically membership token. And the only reason why we did it was just so we can token gate the community better and not let it get too big and dilute. So we set a very simple, very intuitive kind of criteria of how people should basically get this NFT. It was also a free mint, so we ended up with 1.6 thousand mints for free. But also we realized that we would need funding for this, right? So what we did is we offered a higher subscription or higher tier, right, of membership, which was our golden boost or golden pass, for example. And it was it started off at 0.6. It started off at 0.6, and then it reached around, I want to say, average of 0.8 Ethereum at the time for people to buy in. And we had around, I want to say, 360 people buy in through different prices, different averages, etc. And then yeah, we minted out the 1.6. Our whole total collection was always meant to be 4,000, 500 of the gold, 3.5 k of the silver. But because only 1.6 thousand people actually qualified, we deleted a lot of people from the list and said, hey guys, sorry, it was very simple qualification, you didn't make it, right? You didn't participate enough, you didn't do this enough. So yeah, we ended up with that, and then we just kept going with that for a few months. And then we sat around and we're like, okay, so we're very limited by this pass because it doesn't have any identity, it doesn't have any kind of personal touch to it. It's just the same image for everyone, right? And in the meanwhile, after we dropped, Kaiju Kings came around, obviously CyberCon was around, and then SVS was around. So we said, look, we're missing this kind of like personal touch that holders want to have, right? This personal sense of belonging. So we then started thinking about making the PFP collection, which is what Llamaverse is now. It's that continuation of that collection. So what we did was we expanded that 1.6 thousand to 3.5, and then we did some whitelists, we did a Dutch auction, with all these things, and we gave everyone who had a boost a free mint of Llamaverse. So yeah, that's what we did. And as far as the higher tier, the gold, we made animated llamas, which are essentially 500 total, a bunch of them in the vault. But they all have a unique animated background. It's all pixel art, and then 50 of them are completely unique one-of-ones as well. So no recurring traits, nothing like that, just completely unique. And then we said, cool. We thought that was perfect for PFP. It was a unique PFP. There weren't really many llamas around, and the only llama like animal was I think they're rogged, to be honest. I forgot the name now. Laid back llamas, I believe, and they were like 3D, like completely different art. So I said, okay, cool, we're good with this. So we minted that out a week from now would be 1 year ago. So on the 24th or so, we minted that out, and then we were like, okay, cool. That's a good way to start. That's a good way to go. And then slowly but surely, we realized that okay, we have our ideas for products, our services, tools, things that we wanted to have. But if there was no like central kind of body, it would all be disjointed, right? So we decided to just create LlamaLabs, which would kind of hold these things together, and then obviously have Llamaverse in the middle of everything, right? So yeah, I mean, we started off a few tools projects. We did New Cyber, which is a game. That has a long story, but long story short, we were trying to build on top of Minecraft, basically build a bunch of custom like Web3 plugins, all these things. And then we launched, and a week in, Mojang came out, Microsoft and Mojang came out saying Minecraft will never have NFTs on it. So we had to since pivot to new direction, and now we're working with Pixels Online, if you know them. Yeah, Pixels Online, they're like a 2D platformer, VC capital raised project, and we kind of joined forces with them to carry out New Cyber. And then we had some other ideas for tools like whitelist ping, which is a very simple notification tool. Simple concept, but it's actually kind of complex how it works on the back end. But essentially, you can input any whitelist that you have or any drop that you have in there, and then our team tracks all the information for you. So essentially, you don't have to keep any spreadsheets. You don't have to keep anything. You don't have to check any single Discord. The moment you get it, you just plug it in, and we check everything for you and then notify you before the mint happens. So if the mint happens in an hour, 15 minutes before that, you get a message or email. That way, you're essentially saving countless hours of keeping out of everything. And you don't have to go in this and say when mint or when contract or when this and that. It's all there for you. We do that for you. So yeah, we've done these tools. We're building Burn to Earn, which is already done, which is a kind of an experiment of sorts for marketing. We decided to build a platform where you can actually burn your rugs to get rewards. And the way we do it is you essentially jump on the platform. It's called the website. It's not live yet, but we did a private beta for animated for Llamaverse holders. Essentially, you go in, you select any NFT you want. So you can essentially burn a Bored Ape if you wish. You then send it to the burn contract, and you get essentially a box, like a loot box. And in that box, there's different tiers of rewards. It can be gift cards, it can be whitelists, it can be NFTs, all these things. But for you to claim the box, you essentially have to complete some tasks on Twitter. And then we're going to leverage those people doing these tasks, like following, retweeting, all these things, to reach out to projects and secure stuff for the boxes, essentially. As like a self-feeding loop of where we're just pushing and navigating traffic to people. But yeah, I mean, it's again, there's so many moving parts to it that it's kind of hard to mention all of them in the same time.
So basically, you started with this Freeman and then built a community, and then you were like,
yes,
we are just going to go out and create a ton of different tools that people in the Web3 space need, right? So you were like, okay, let's figure out, like, that's the premise, right? That's the premise of Llamaverse. It's like,
it's not even the it's not a premise. It's kind of just how it happened, because we didn't set off wanting to do all of these things. We just were like, okay, the reason why whitelist ping as a tool exists is because me and Llama had a whitelist that me and him missed because we were busy, and we missed like a 1 ETH like flip or 1 ETH like investment opportunity, all these things. And then me and him were like, shit, man, like this is annoying. I was like, and then he was like, man, if only there was a tool that would remind you these things. And we were like, let's make one.
Isn't that the premise of pre-mint, like that? But you need to have like a pre-mint collector pass. It does the same thing.
No, I don't. It's not because I'm not sure how they notify people, but I'm pretty sure you have to.
By
If
email.
you do a project and you want to be on there, you have to physically buy the pass to be on pre-mint, I believe. Or there were some limitations on it.
Yeah, no. So they do this for pre-mint collector pass holders, which is like if you have the pre-mint pass and you enter, an allow list through pre-mint, then
yeah, that's the limitation, right? It's the fact that
so for you do it for anything. It doesn't matter.
We literally have we have like we can have 4,000 projects on there as long as a person submits or we seek it out ourselves. It's there. So like, for example,
how people pay for it? Is it like monetized?
Yeah, so we have an NFT which basically gives you access, and then there's a monthly fee of around $8 to $10, I want to say. And in the future we're monetizing through offering it to communities for a bulk discount, or we're building out some B2B solutions as well. But we've also built out a bunch of bots and systems on the back end to detect all of these pieces of information being updated. So we literally have a threshold of like thousands of projects potentially that we can keep on top of. And we're about to launch our second version of the tool. So the tool's been functional for a while. We had around 2,000 people. I want to say between 1.5 and 2,000 people using it on a test network. Since launch, we've been only limiting it to the holders of the NFT. We're now opening up to Llamaverse holders, and then we're gonna slowly expand elsewhere. And we already have a decent amount of interest from communities without us even reaching out to do it. So yeah, I mean, it got to the point where people were complaining to us that we stopped the beta so we can launch, because they were so used to it that they just got out of all of their habits, their old habits, right, of keeping tracks, of whitelist, having spreadsheets. They were like, man, I just need it. So yeah, and then obviously with time we've built out different software. So we have our own app on the store, and you can connect. It's just called LlamaLabs by Llamaverse. You can just connect and put in your connect through WAP and essentially get all the notifications you want or need. And in the future, we're building, we have API set up. So essentially with whitelist ping, if a project wants to connect through whitelist ping to their holders, they can go to the app and use it and get notifications there as well. So if you buy, let's say if a project, for example, has a giveaway or marketplace or whatever they want to do, like will automatically get the information from them put into the app, and then people get it across different channels. And we found that the actual app is really useful because in its current stage, it's only for announcements and a few select channels, which is essentially what people need, because everyone's in like 200 discords and they miss stuff, right? And if you can like pinpoint and select specific channels that you want and like notification for, you can do it through the app.
Very cool. So you mentioned we quite a lot. So who's we? Are you one of the co-founders, and how does that work? How many?
Yeah. So it's NFT Llama and myself who are the co-founders essentially. So when I say we, I usually mean me, him, and some of the rest of the core team. That's who we is.
Okay, and yeah. It seems like you're building so many moving pieces here, and you've only had. How much did you raise through the
oh god
sales? This sounds like you're building so much and there's so many people involved. How are you funding it?
It's been such a long time, I can't remember the exact. I think it's around 1 million something, 1.2 million I would say. But honestly, the way we do it is we leverage a lot. So when we build one product, it's always with the idea of leveraging it to get access to something else, right? For example, with Burn to Earn, we'll leverage it to get access to different platforms, and where we miss and where we can't really fulfill for our community, we use our leverage to do it elsewhere. I mean, that way we've managed to get a lot of cheaper development and free favors or people giving us software. We've managed to acquire companies as well. So we've acquired two projects in the meanwhile. That has given us extra funds or has given us a ready product that we can then monetize easily. So, for example, one of the ones that we took over was called it is no it wasn't called, it is still called it's called Node Finance, and it's essentially a tool that reads blockchain data and allows you to track any contract, any wallet, any community, or any pretty much anything on the chain, right? So if, for example, the Llamaverse community wants to Node Finance essentially display like what Gary Vee has minted or what Frank has done or what Zeneka's community has bought into. So it allows you to make educated guesses on what's happening in the market and the space. And you can also track specific wallets. So we pretty much have built out I guess like a short document of like very big whales or very, very, very successful traders that have like insane profitability. Node Finance essentially allows you to check what they're doing, what they're buying into, so you can catch the trends early. For example, and we've taken all this data and put it into this thing that we call a FOMO alert, which is an algorithm that we built that essentially tracks how much volume is going into a collection given over a period of time to then potentially say, hey, this might explode drastically. So I think Node Finance pinged the algorithm pinged the checks at around 0.01, I want to say. So it was an insane call, and a few llamas got in, and I think one of them made around 45 ETH from that. So it's just these tools that come together to essentially save time for people, right? Rather than if you're a trader that has a day job, for example, and you come after work, you don't have time to be with your family and track your whitelist. You don't have time to be tracking specific wallets and doing all these things. But with us, you can just get it, and then you set up for half an hour to an hour max all of these things for you, and then boom, you're there. Like you get all the information fed to you, and you can just do whatever you want to do with it. Majority of people use it for trading, so most of our holders are traders at this stage, because at the end of the day, that's where we started, and that's what we kind of kept as the core. Although we have built out a lot of products and services, obviously I mentioned to the educational platform that again will educate people across the space, but also on how to be a better trader. So trading is always at the heart of what we do. And many people kind of label us as an alpha community, an alpha group, which is I think it's a good connotation and a bad connotation with it. Obviously the positives are that we make people money, right? Like we enable people to, this is a competitive market. Just as any market in this world, someone has to lose for someone to win, right? The money doesn't just happen like this. Like this is a market, right? But the bad connotation is some people look down on us as like, oh, they're just an alpha group, right? But in reality, we're becoming more of a tech company rather than anything else at this stage, because the amount of platforms and tools that we've built or are finishing up now, it's more than anyone else, I would say, in the space that I'm aware of, you know.
Yeah, it sounds like you've delivered so much with so little.
Yeah, it's actually this was actually an issue now because it's so much that we didn't have a good way of communicating all of the things, if that makes sense. So people just buy in and they'll be like, what is going on? Like this is so much. Like what the fuck am I doing here? So we took some time, and what we did is we built a dashboard, which we just launched 2 days ago, I want to say, that essentially takes all the small bits and different web pages, different like sources, and it shoves it into one place. So essentially any Llama holder can go in there, and we want them to use it more than they will use Discord or our Discord, I mean. So in the once everything's implemented, we're honestly looking at having like maximum of 10 channels in a Discord, and now we have 10 categories. It's that bad, because we've done so much and we've partnered with so many people and so many communities, that we just have so much going on. So you'd have to like scroll through things and people lose things. But with our dashboard, we've essentially taken APIs from others and plugged them in there. So if someone is to release, for example, an alpha report, or someone is releasing a market, so we have a daily market updates on the general equities market and world like economy. Instead of our holders having to go there and click on the channel, it's all on a dashboard with notifications, like a small box, and you just click and it expands. That's kind of the idea. And it's all about saving time, right? Because in this market, like the quicker you are, the better you are, right? That's pretty much it. If you can, me for example, any documentary, any podcast, anything I do apart from music, I play at 2 times speed because I consume more content and more information, and I'm already ahead of time. If that makes sense, it kind of like stacks up with time.
I'm the same. I'm the same.
Yeah, it's once you do it, it's scary. Like you can't stop.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And I think it's quite exciting with ChatGPT, becoming more and more.
Oh yeah.
Like you can ask it to condense data for you.
I think, and that's a good topic to have a conversation about is how much is things like ChatGPT and other AIs gonna cut out the need for staff, right? Because before I would have to make someone write a document for like 2 days, right? And now I can get like 60% of the document done in like half an hour, right? Which is a massive efficiency increase. But with the bigger teams, the issue is like it needs more structure, it needs more software, it needs more things. So we have Linear, we have Trello, we have Discord, obviously. I've given all of my staff members my WhatsApp as well in case of emergencies. It's just like it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and like the funnel it's harder and harder to manage. It's a good problem to have though, rather than not have enough people.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the case. When you look at the current state of the Web3 space, what are some of the things that strike you as potential challenges that for business models, right? So for example, obviously the royalties is a big one right now. I think that the royalty, personally, I don't like the idea of royalties because I think that they do misalign the incentives because you are making money from people leaving your community. That's one of the biggest things that I don't like about it. But on the other hand, there needs to be some way of generating recurring revenue for the project founders so that they can fund things, right? So what's your take on that, and where do you think this is going? Because I mean, it seems to me that royalties are going to go away eventually. Like right now, okay, Blur came out and airdropped some Blur token to people who had lost money because of that's really like, are you taking the piss? Why would you even do that? Like
it's like a fraction of what it would have been.
But even if it wasn't a fraction of it, can they keep doing it? How about moving forward, right? Like it's kind of like
no, we can't.
Like I messed up with your system, and then here's some candy kind
of. It's a consolation prize, yeah. It's like
and it's just like it's not a. I just think that it's not a solution, right? It's not a solution. So what is the solution? What do you think?
I mean, it's the difference is right. NFTs and Web2, like Web2 and Web3 are different, right? We raise money up front, a big amount of money up front from a community to deliver a product, right? And you're answering to the community daily. You're talking to them daily. I believe if you're a founder and if you're not in the community daily, you're basically slow rugging. If I see a founder saying, "Oh, I don't go to Discord, I don't do this and that, I stay away from it," I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like Jesus Christ. But I think it's the thing is, right, like most VC investments in Web2, right, or fundraising or all these capital raises, they're meant for a long-term like boundary, right? There's no royalties coming in. Like you have like, let's say $1 million and you have to stretch it out until later on. And obviously as a proof of concept, you can raise more money and keep going. And then eventually you might become a unicorn, right? With us, you get the money instantly, and instead of talking to the VC every quarter or every how much time, you're talking to the VC, which is the community every day, right? And you have to do this and that, and it becomes so much more kind of stressful. And I kind of guess why people are leaving and they're like rugging and doing all these things. Because like people are vicious and immature in this space. Not vicious, vicious is a bit much, but immature for sure. Like people are like talking to me and saying these things, and I'm like, you're just saying things to say them, right? You're not considering any of the like obligations that this decision would follow, or
Give me some
liability.
examples. Give me some examples.
Someone said to me, this is 2 days ago. They said to me, Ordinals came out. We should make an Ordinals collection. And I was like, dude, we are building this out. We've said no more collections pretty much because we don't see the need for more collections on our ecosystem. Ordinals is a new tech, and you want us to raise to put out a 4 or 5K collection, 4K collection, 3K collection, and then what? Right? You just want to ride the meta just so you like you can do something, and then what after? Like the liability to these new holders, the utility to these holders, the communication, the staff that needs to take care of these holders. Like no one considers these things, right? Or like I speak to someone and they're like, oh yeah, can we do this and that, or this and that, or can you ask this community for this? And I'm like, you do realize that they need something from us as well. Like we can't just demand things or ask for things. Or they're like, oh, this project is giving whitelist, but we're not getting any, or we're not getting as much as this other person. And I'm like, do you know their relationship, their deal, their structure? It's just like you see something and you want to compare directly to the other party. Or when people like they talk bad things about other projects at times, and I'm like everyone's different, right? Everyone's doing a different mission, different thing. And there's a lot of people that are just young, and you can tell that they're young in the space. Like I know a lot of people are in like pretty much out of high school, nearly or pretty young. I am young myself. I just turned 22, right? But like you have to put yourself in like a perspective of like these are companies that are potentially not going to make it, right? Or these are startups, and most startups never make it out of the first like couple of years, right? That's just the fact. And then everyone throws it around, but no one actually thinks about it. And if people have zero patience and they don't want to use these things, they don't want to make the money or do whatever, or use the products, I'm just like, what the hell's going on, you know? So yeah, and what I'm doing to kind of combat that is I'm telling these people like, look, this NFT, this llama that you bought, for example, and this llama that you bought, you shouldn't be buying it so the floor goes higher. You should be buying it to use it. And then the floor is an afterthought. The floor should not even bother you. If you're buying, like, for example, for 1 ETH, which is 1 ETH is the floor price just about right now, like you should be looking to get 1 ETH of value out of this. Would that be the education? Would that be the trading? Would that be a partnership? Would that be a tool? Would that be the time saved, the wireless paying? Would that be a notification, Noti Finance? Like you should be like breaking even with time. It should be a return on investment from your kind of I guess your time invested in it as well. If you just come in Discord every day and you type in, oh no, the floor's dropped 10%. Oh no, the floor is down 15%. I don't care. Like I check the floor daily because I do, but it doesn't bother me because I know that the floor can be 7 ETH or 2 ETH, but our utility is the same. Like we don't just every time the floor goes below 0.1, like every time the floor goes down by 0.1, we don't just turn off things and go like you can't use this now because the floor is low. Like they're just still there. If anything, the lower the floor is, even if it has dips, that's good because that allows people to sell and then new people to come in, and these new people can just have a lower like investment for the same opportunity, right? Yeah, it's just yeah. And I get it. I don't blame people because they have like their own lives and they don't think about this every day. But I think about this every day, 24 hours, right? And I see the perspective that they would never see because they just haven't thought about it that much, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually I think that's why I'm very keen on soulbound tokens or wallet tokens. I think they're really amazing for this type of thing where your focus has to be on building something and giving value. And if people are constantly thinking about the floor, there's so many variables that will affect people buying and selling. Like, the price of ETH goes up, and there, with our Genesis token, we minted at 0.1 and it went up to 3 ETH at some point, and now it's sitting around 1 ETH. And
Yeah.
it's like, the truth is that sometimes people sell because they can't get liquidity anywhere else, and then if everybody thinks the same, then the price is going to keep going down, right? And then there's only so much I can do to maintain that for you, like there's, at the end of the day, I need to focus on actually delivering, right? So it's
Yeah, it's
that's why I'm considering completely getting out of this tradables, and slowly kind of getting out of that type of token. That's why we are going to have a PFP drop. It's going to be a free mint, and it's going to be 0% royalty. So I'm like, it's free mint, is 0% royalty. I'm not going to take I'm not going to do anything for the floor to go up or down. It's completely up to you. I'm not going to support the floor. I'm not going to sweep for you. I'm not going to do any of those things, which people, invariably have to do a lot of times to maintain things. And I'm like, I'm just not going to do that. It's a collectible, it's like a PFP that you can use, and we can build a whole story around it, which is like, you can think of it almost like this thing that as you gain new POAPs, that it's going to develop different characteristics. But what we are going to do is that this PFP is going to give you limited access to things, and then as you get more access as your PFP develops, and goes to the higher levels. But in order to do that, if you buy a soulbound token, then that speeds up your journey. And that way, then even if people end up selling it, they still are in the community because they have the soulbound token, right? So it's an experiment. I don't know if it will work. But my gut feeling is that we need to get away from this idea of tradables, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that idea, and it's a good idea to do it. We're speaking of levels and unlocking things as you go with time. We're actually doing a similar thing with our new staking, which we haven't released yet. But our new staking essentially gives you levels with time, and that unlocks more and more utilities as you go up. So the what we deem as like harder utilities to use, or more kind of specialized stuff, you would need slightly more time just so you can settle into each one of them block by block and go up, essentially. But the point to soulbounds, I think things should be tradable. I think trading, you buying it and then knowing that you could potentially exit later,
but I don't understand that, because if you are buying it to access certain utility, then you shouldn't be. I don't necessarily think that you should be able to exit later.
Well, yeah, no.
Especially because especially if there is no royalty, and I don't think even 10% royalty is enough to to sustain the business model, right? Like, you buy something, you access it, you've benefited from things. Why should you have to be able to sell it later? I don't necessarily
think that's the unique selling point of NFTs, right? Is because you have the ability to pass it on, and it's your ownership. Because if it's soulbound, then I might as well just go and like buy a membership of a Web2 company, right?
No, it's different, because with the tokens, there are so many things that you can do with them. You can enable a level of collaboration with different communities if you have tokens, because you can get access to token gated things.
Oh yeah, no, that's still in the picture. Yeah, that's still in the picture.
Yeah,
but I think
so. I don't think that the unique selling point is the sellability. I think that's the mistake.
I meant it's one of them, but I think it's a considerable one, because if, for example, I'll give you a good example where I think
you can't. So sorry to interrupt, but the problem with that is that you cannot scale, because every time you want to add more people, the other ones are going to go and sell, right? And therefore you can never scale, right? Because they don't like the idea of the tradable asset. It's only useful for limited collections. So I think that it should be seen as more like a perk that you get as a result of being involved in a community, that, but I don't necessarily think that, because the problem is that if you have a collection of 5,000 and now you want to, it's okay for the first drop, but it's not okay for if you want to go from 5,000 to 10,000, because the next drop has to be lower price, even though you have now created more utility, right? Because the other ones are expecting that their collection is going to be, the more expensive one, the first one. So unless you have a lot of new people coming into the space, which we don't at the moment, it makes it very hard to scale. So I think a lot of communities are going to run into that. And think about what Proof did right now. That's why I don't know if you've seen what's happened with Proof. I just sold my Proof Pass. It's like basically the Proof Pass is valid for 3 years, right?
I just remembered. Was it you that had some controversy for selling without royalties on Blur?
Yeah.
I just my brain just clicked with your PFP on Twitter as well because I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was me. And the reason was that because I had previously said that people must pay royalty if they buy our collection. But what I was talking about, it was a different context. We
Oh yeah,
minted at
people.
point, we minted at point
Yeah.
1, right? And we went all the way to 3 ETH, and people weren't paying royalties. And I was like, we are not having anything coming back to the community, and it's not fair. With Proof, it was very different because I bought my Proof Pass at nearly 74 ETH, like 73 and a half ETH or something,
Yeah.
right? And then they announced this 3-year thing, which was not clear when I was buying. It wasn't a front and center on OpenSea. People would have known it if they had minted, but if you hadn't minted, you wouldn't know. And when I bought, I didn't know. And for people who say DYOR, it's like I spoke to Zeneca, I spoke to the Proof team. Nobody told me that this is 3 years and it might be a problem, right? Like that, So then when they started talking about the 3-year deal, people started dumping and it went down. And yes, I bought to use the utility, but the utility that I expected, I didn't get. The utility that I expected was access to the team, to the network. But actually, I found the network itself very, like the Proof collective members, that the Proof Discord, I actually found them not to be very supportive, and at times I had a difficult time there, so I just wasn't very happy there. So I was like, okay, I'm not happy, and now I'm having to sell at a 50 ETH, 51 and a half ETH loss, like over 100 grand loss.
That's rough.
It is rough, and that and I also sent an email to the to Kevin and Justin, and I before that I even mentioned it to the team, and I was like, guys, I'm not gonna pay royalty, because I've lost so much already, and and then, but people don't know that, right? They don't know that the relationship that you may have with them, that you may like they only look at the blockchain and they're like, oh, should we pay royalty? And then it was like all over the place. So that's why I am convinced that the fact that NFTs are sellable, it doesn't work for a business model. NFTs that are collectible, fair enough. But if it's not a collectible, if it's a membership where you get in and you get a certain amount of utility, it shouldn't be tradable. So I think that we can build business models that's a combination. There can be a collectible, you can sell, you can do whatever you want with it, and there is the soulbound token that is that way it gives us a level of stability to the business that will enable the business to be able to expand and grow and scale.
Yeah, I mean the whole Proof situation is I saw the thread and you were replying to people, and I was like, this is like such a non issue for these people. Like, why are they like, people just love drama. Like, people just love taking stuff out of context and just beefing people. But just because the market's slow and there's not much stuff to do, they just try to find the kind of the drama of the day sort of deal, and it's a pain. But I do agree. Like, I think with Proof, especially when Moonbirds were coming out, and they were like a 2 ETH mint, and I kept asking people like, okay, so what do you actually get when you're in Proof, right? In the Proof collective. Is there like a special utility? Is there a few meetups? Is it like you can pitch things, or is it like because majority of the successful people in the space that I know, they don't have a proof. They're still successful. They're still there. I know some of the most like insane people that I've ever met in my life from NFTs, and none of them have a proof, nor do they care for the proof network, I guess. So I was always asking people like, okay, what is the actual utility? And no one could seem to answer me, right? And at that point, I just
There is a
dismissed.
utility. It's the grails, right? So they have the grails
Yeah, it's just a
drops, right?
piece of So it was a 200,000 at the time when I was discussing this, and when Moonbirds came out, it's a you buy a
But I
200,000.
didn't buy because of grails. I was very clear to the team when I was buying. I was like, I
Yeah,
didn't buy for the grails. I don't need it. I'm not an art
yeah,
collector. I bought for the network, and the network wasn't what I thought it was. So I think it
yeah.
was,
And I mean, I
like,
think I think for most people the biggest selling point was the network, right? But then like, okay, sure, there's been what, two grails and then another one coming in.
yeah. So and also the problem with the grails is that it's very hard, like, and I feel for the team. It's very hard because now there are so many other copycats, right? So there's so many other communities that I won't name, but like that they're doing similar kind of thing, right? And it's like there are only so many
Well, if
artists, so many things. Like there's so many other communities now that are also doing the same thing. You buy a thousand, and then
yeah,
yeah.
but my question to that, so we're doing that actually. We're doing an art drop. But
Mm.
my question is, why does proof get to be the original? And why is the copycat problem? Because this is art after all, right?
Yeah,
I
I
think
suppose. I
if you
suppose
want to
because
bring
they were at
up,
the beginning, because they were there in the beginning, that they came up with the concept, right? And it's like, if you are an art collector, I can see why you would be bullish on that. But even with that, like the Grail passes now sell for less than 2 ETH every time, and it's so that then you will think like, why do I need a proof pass if I'm interested in the, because people get their Grail pass and sell it, right? So
yeah,
if you want to get the art, it's easier to actually just buy the Grail pass. And actually there's a Grail channel. So once you have that Grail pass, you are in that Grail channel and you're cross-pollinating with a lot of the proof members. So I think when it first started, it was like, access to Kevin, right? It was like, that was like the thing, right? Like it was like this group of people who are Kevin's, fans, and they wanted that access. But actually, Kevin is not there, and
that's
actually,
what I
if
said. Did I
you
not
know
say earlier? Like, if you're not there, you kind of,
and
in my
maybe he
opinion.
was there in the beginning, but I wasn't there, right? Like, those early
Mhm.
days I wasn't there. So when I came in, like, I barely ever see Kevin in the Discord. So Kevin is not there. And if you are, if you're thinking, if you live in LA, you maybe get access because they have a lot of things where that if you live in LA, that you could go there. But if you don't live in LA, you live in Europe, or you live
Yeah, I mean,
there, you don't get access.
my thing with the concept of proof is, and I'll back it up with some examples, is it's overpriced, right? Like, I think even now at this stage, it's probably overpriced. Because like, if okay, so me as an individual, right? I plunged myself through some friends, an example I'm going to give in a second, into like the London finance crypto kind of scene. And the people that I've met who are extremely successful, built products, have done multiple exits, are now building something amazing, something new. I didn't need proof for that. And I don't think I would have ever got that with proof
Actually, proof, if
as the
anything, for me,
concept.
backlashed. It actually, you didn't, it worked against
I
me.
don't know. Yeah,
You know what I
potentially.
mean? Like it actually worked against me, because all of the communities that I have now on our platform that I'm working with, none of
Yeah.
them, I don't even have their NFTs. Like Real Vision is coming on our platform, using our platform. Impact Theory is coming to use the platform. I don't even have their NFTs.
Yeah.
You know,
And I don't, and that's the point. Like I, and the example I'm going to give of a kind of substitute, and I think how it should be done is, we have this. I don't think I mentioned in our last meeting, but we have this, and it's been a year plus now. Private members club in London for NFTs, blockchain, crypto, all of these things. And that's where I met these people, right? And that club is a physical location where you can meet people from around the world, people that are in London, in the UK in general. And I'm an early investor in it, so I've been there since the beginning. I joined as just to help. Like I didn't ask for anything, any money, nothing. I was like, okay, I like this idea. It's cool. I went to a few of the events before we bought any venue or anything, where we just had some random locations we went to, like random meetups. And that membership costs £2,500, pretty much for life, right? It and then you can sell that membership on later. And I think that's a perfect example of a project with utility that you can sell on, because this club has upper limit of how many people it can actually hold and sustain like long term. You can't just have 10,000 people as members, because people it will fall all the time in one club. So for this 2,500 grand, I feel like I've had so much more access to people, and this doesn't really work for everyone because not everyone's in London. We're actually about to open, or we're raising money to open in Dubai as well, and that's what I'm kind of doing right now.
Amazing.
On the side as well. But that concept and that idea is just so simple, and
but it's all
not
about perception, right? Like the perception that Proof created, they were very good at creating it. And it look, buying a Moonbird opened up a lot of things for me. Like I learned so much, and it definitely kickstarted, or really maybe not kickstarted, but like really accelerated my Web3 journey. So look, I do appreciate and cherish the experience that I've had, but I've also had some very difficult times in the I kind of wish that I had stuck with my Moonbird and not bought my Proof Pass. But yeah, I guess it's a learning lesson, right? And moving
yeah.
forward, I don't think I will ever buy an expensive membership like that. Yeah, it
The
just
thing is,
doesn't make
yeah,
sense, because
it really doesn't. And what makes sense is like even what is it now, like 20 ETH for Proof, for
no,
example?
17, 15, 17 or something.
What, 20 something thousand dollars, $30,000?
Yeah, like yeah,
You can
20.
do so much more with that, right? And you can have so
I
much
mean,
more
I
value.
bought at $140,000.
Yeah, so if you bought 140, that's crazy. Because I've reaped so many benefits and so many connections from the London club on its own, and I've invested in it, and I own a part of it with less money than you invested in there. And for me, it's just like, yeah. And I don't think any membership anywhere is worth that much if it's not like billionaires and like extremely high net worth individuals in an extremely private location, right? Um, but again, I don't have a proof, and I feel like I'm more connected with most people in terms of the NFT space.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I've had
people,
a lot more, connections by myself.
yeah,
Yeah,
people don't realize that majority of like down to earth founders who don't are not full of themselves, they'll get back to you. Like you message them and they'll get back to you. Or if you want to speak to them, like really want to speak to them, just message one of their mods and they'll get to you. Like the amount of people that I've met, like literally yesterday, I had a meeting with someone. And they were like, "Oh my god, this is so surreal speaking to you." I was like, "Dude, I'm just a guy. Like my DMs have been open forever. Like you could just DM me and get to talk to me. Like I'm not some celebrity or something." But people like have that perception that most founders of like the bigger projects are like these extremely hard to get to, extremely like difficult people to like talk to. And I'm just like, dude, like I'm here. Like you can like my community messages me and I reply to them within like 2 to 3 hours max, right? Because like what else are you doing, right? And you're missing opportunities for yourself and your community if you're not answering these DMs. And if you're too big for DMs, then you just I mean, and there's the other side of this as well, right? If you're really really big, you get a lot of random spam, right? But if you actively take some time of your day to look at these like quality people and connections, and for example, how me and you got introduced, right? It was through Blackball, who I listen to. Every time he brings someone to me that wants to do an intro for, I do it 100%. And today I connected one of my good friends, JT, to Amir, like from Dark Echelon, right? And these small like 5 minute interactions for me that takes me 5 minutes to do this, make this group, has just a spiraling opportunity for these guys on the side as well, right? And then the next time someone wants to help me out, they'll do the same thing for me. And then if people just realize that and do it more, There's no need for proof for all these things. Like you can be in a community that has a 0.01 like ETH floor that
And
has
have
like
more connections. Yeah.
insane people that are just there for the shits and giggles. Like they're just there to chill. Like they don't really care. Like it's crazy. And people don't understand this because people have such superficial conversations with most of the communities around that they never really get to meet people. So like I've met people that have done insane things again that are just like a normal Llamaverse holder, right? And they will never reveal it until you speak to them, right? It's just one of these things. But yeah, in my opinion, like spending anything over like a few thousand quid for any sort of membership like that is crazy. Because even in the club, you spend 2,500 grand, right? And you get to have a co-working space and location and a place to go do meetings and like eat and have things in private in central London, in Soho, right? Like what other collection in the space can do that for you, right?
I guess like part of it is also status, right? Like, but then, for example, people were saying, some people were comparing it to, say, BAYC, and I'm like, at least with BAYC, you have a bloody ape that you can show on your,
Yeah, I honestly, this
but
might be a controversial take, but I think most Bored Ape holders are just lost in the sauce, in my opinion, because I've met a few of them who are not okay. So there's the people who are influencers and project founders that obviously know what they're doing somewhat, arguably. But the general average Bored Ape holder likely just minted out of pure luck or bought out like 1,000 quid out of pure luck, and they're just there, right? They're not someone that has insane status or something to back them up. They just have the PFP. And I've met, and we had an event with the same club before we actually acquired our location. We invited the UK Bored Ape community to one of our events, and I was sitting there with another two project founders that are good friends of mine, and the Bored Ape guys just could not like partake in any conversation at all. They were just sitting there like staring at the walls. I was just like, yeah. Since I was there on any PFP I see, I don't judge anything, right? Because it doesn't matter. It literally does not matter.
look, I could talk to you forever. You're so much fun to talk to. My next meeting has arrived. I can see them. They're waiting in the waiting room. But look, let's do this again, because I'm so glad that we met. We had such a good time speaking the other day. We talked to this the second time. We're talking for a very long time. So this has been so much fun. Let's keep talking. I'd like to get you back on. I think that you will do so well in this space. I'm really excited that that we met, and we are one of the most dynamic founders or co-founders in the space that I've met, because it's very rare that I really get into the conversation so much that so it's been great talking to you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, you're probably one of the more fun like kind of interviews or spaces I've done or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Appreciate it.
Right. Take care. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Helle, the co-founder of Llamaverse. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, or any other one of your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and write a review. The full interviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.